Hi all, welcome. Let's wait for another few more minutes for our speaker Djimo and also other come. Hi Djimo, hi everybody. I am suggesting we wait for another 2 more minutes for more people to come. Thank you.
Okay, hi Fatine, hi everybody. Let me know when to. I'll be right back. Actually, let me get a water.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Mamake kidogo amuue kwa afya.
Right. I think we can slowly start. I hope you're seeing my screen. Right. Okay. Hi everybody. Welcome to this month's community call. We've already had one actually very early this month, but that was the January one, and we also talked about MRV. I think the whole theme at the moment, including us at GainForest, we're working on BumiSearch's platform, and we would like to highlight more on the MRV part and also the evidence layers of BumiSearch as well. So that's why most of our calls, you can see like the themes would be focusing more on MRV. So last month, early this month, we have Angelina who talked about the very basics or a bit of intro towards MRV. And today we have Djimo here from Silvi who will be talking specifically on tree data, right? So before we start, just a little bit of ice breaking before we go, because we are all like global community. I would like to also know where you're joining us from. I'm joining all of you today from Malaysia. It's 9 p.m. Right now. Feel free to share in the chat box where are you joining us from. I'm gonna let people in slowly. Right. Feel free to share in the chat where you're coming from, where you're joining us from today. Would love to know if you can open your camera. That would be great as well, just to say hi. Right. Just a little bit of house rules before we start. Hi, Max. Max from Argentina. Before
Hi,
we
everyone.
Hello, Peter. Hi, Diego. It's raining heavily in Kenya, right? Cool. Before we start, just a little bit of house rules. Number one, please keep your microphone muted when not speaking. But if you like to say something, feel free to use the raise hand button, and then you can feel free to talk. And then second, feel free to turn on your camera to say hi, because I feel like we only have this kind of gathering like once a month, so it'd be great to actually see your face if you would like to open your camera. And then thirdly, as usual, get involved, ask questions. This would be like a great opportunity for us to meet once a month, and just also share. If you like to share what you are doing at the moment regarding the topic, feel free to also unmute yourself and share. And you can also share in the chat if you want. Right, quick vibe check before we start. As usual, which one are you on the scale of Baby Yoda? Which one are you today or right now? For me, it's fall because it's already nighttime here in Malaysia, so a bit sleepy. But I'm excited to listen to today's speaker and also about tree data. But feel free to share which one on the scale of Baby Yoda, how you're feeling today in the chat box. It is two, right? Usually, like people from Latin America, the US, they'll be like very pumped up compared to those like who are already in the nighttime like me. I'm already like a 4 at the moment. Right, cool. Next, just a little bit of updates. This month, we have two new blog posts. The first one was actually regarding Nature Guild's first ever in-person event, which was pitched actually by our 3 Ugandan Nature Guild members. And then they actually facilitated the event themselves, the workshop, and it's on how nature stewards in Uganda can actually use Web3. So it was facilitated by Sakwa from Bees and Trees Uganda, and also Daniel from Youth Leading Environmental Change, YLAC. And they actually gathered 15 people from the organizations and also those who are a little bit outside of their organization, basically the partners, to learn about Web3, for example, like setting up wallets, and then highlighting also Web3 security. And they also talked about the which is STAR formula, which is situation, task, action, and result for impact funding. So this is basically a continuation to what we have learned internally at Nature Guild, and now they're like basically trying to expand it to their community in Uganda. So this was done in Kampala, Uganda on the 14th of February this month. So if you like to, read more about what happened or you want to ask questions to them, for example, feel free to add in the comment section of this blog. So that's the first one. And the second one, we also have another blog post regarding the field notes from me, because early this month, I went to Sabah, which is still in Malaysia, where I'm from, but it's a different area, different state. And this is also a little bit of research on Bumi Search and data standards, especially on capacity building programs. So if you'd like to know more, basically the theme of this would be on capacity building and how we certify or verify learning from capacity building programs. So if you're interested in this, feel free to read this as well. Cool. Before we start, and I give the stage to Djimo, if any of you would like to share, or you can also share after Djimo session or during Djimo session. But I'm also interested to know what kind of MRV strategies that you are using right now. If you'd like to share, feel free to share in the chat box, or if you want to unmute yourself, feel free. Anyone? If not yet, it's okay, because I understand it's quite early. Not yet? Cool, it's okay. We will keep this going again. I will ask again later in this after the session, because I would also like to know, especially for those who are doing specifically to tree data, what kind of strategy and maybe specific tools that you're using, so that others can also learn from you, right? So feel free to put in the chat box or unmute yourself if you want. But if there's nothing yet for now, I will pass this stage to Djimo. To you, Djimo.
Thank you, Fatin. Yeah, it's an honor to be here. I guess I want to start by saying that not too long ago, I was in New Zealand for a retreat, and that was just a couple of weeks ago. In fact, I just got back last week. But yeah, it was really great to spend some time with the GainForest team, as well as many other teams in the MRV space. For the last couple of years, I feel like Silvi and GainForest have been building in parallel, although very close to each other, and certainly with a lot of shared community. And so to then be able to spend, a lot of time together and deep dive and dream together and think about synergies and collaboration was really cool. So yeah, I'm here. Actually, I see so many familiar names. Not faces because all the cameras are turned off, but nonetheless, it's good to chat once again through the GainForest medium. And so because a lot of you kind of already know what Silvi does, maybe I will spend a little bit more time envisioning next steps, although I will certainly kind of summarize what Silvi does at a high level. Yeah, so let me, I guess, do what I always do for you. For those of you who've seen these slides already, apologies, but I guess it's kind of needed if you're not quite sure what Silvi does. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen? I think it's working. Cool. Okay, well, actually, I'll even go back. So basically, Silvi's mission is very focused on trees, of course. We're building technology to help and support in the reversal of deforestation. I would say less so on forest protection, although I absolutely endorse the need to protect what's left. In fact, these are irreversible losses that we continue to lose. But I would say our technology has been a little bit more geared towards, okay, once land is identified that we can help restore, what are the different tools that we can implement to track that progress, to fund that impact, to maybe even guide it in terms of what trees should be planted where and in what recipes and in what time frame, etc. So we've been kind of building with this high level vision that certainly there are some trends to pay attention to, like carbon, but truly what we're positioning for are much more broad biodiversity and ecosystem service accounting that we would like to help support. In fact, with this vision, this long-term vision that trees are an ideal candidate as an asset class for natural capital. And so if you're familiar with sort of regenerative economics and different forms of capital, then it might make a little bit of sense that trees have so much inherent value, but we as a species, as a civilization, fail to realize that value, and much more quickly we are motivated to cut them for firewood or for clearing, for short-term agriculture gains, but there's so much more value to trees. And so how do we capture that value? And I understand GainForest is definitely thinking about similar things. Maybe, for instance, some of the work GainForest has done that's really cool is in the bioacoustic space. And so even bioacoustics mounted in the forest, making sense and proving the existence of bird life or insect life or just biodiversity concentration. Obviously, these are all indicators of the trees that are necessary to hold that life. And so there's that's a perfect example of how there's ultimately a stack for trees, and we're trying to build some of those tools and collaborating with others as well. But how it all comes together is, really trees are an asset class. They're stationary living beings. They represent a web of life, but for the most part, they also are treated like any other living thing in the context of ecology. There are tree populations, there are tree species, and I think that has been one of the biggest gap in in how economics understands trees, because economics just looks at trees in terms of again, maybe in terms of timber and logs and how fast you can harvest them, or in terms of carbon, not even thinking about as much carbon per tree, but carbon per area, per hectare. And so I think these are pretty reductionist approaches to tree accounting. Uh-oh, I heard something. Oh, okay, that's just an AI assistant. So those are pretty reductionist approaches to tree accounting, and I think it really requires a much more robust and holistic approach to understanding trees. And the first step is really understanding that trees have a life cycle, and so if we are to track their progress or understand what comes when and where, really this life cycle approach has to be built. And in fact, trees outlive us. Trees often grow for hundreds of years, if not thousands. Certainly there are a few species in the commercial sense that can be grown in 10, 20, 30 years. Even then, that's half a human lifetime, and much slower than other types of commodities and assets. So even in the commercial timber space, it's already a pretty slow moving asset with long-term investment horizons. But if we are to solve biodiversity, we need to think in even longer time horizons. And that's a complex problem to solve, but it certainly starts with life cycle based understanding and tooling. And so we are basically trying to build methodologies to support this life cycle approach to tree stewardship and to tree accounting, all the way from pre-planting research and understanding, and I'll share some tools there, but also the configuration of events, which ultimately can be wrapped up as contracts that say, hey, if you do A, B, and C, there's an escrow with funding that will release said payments. And so this is effectively what we've been prototyping over the last couple of years, and more recently even launched some bigger scale campaigns around, which I'll share as well. I saw John Ruth in the call. And the next big episode for us is refining these systems, making sure that they work in conjunction with a big picture, but also doing MRV right. The theme today is MRV, and so I think there's an important question in MRV, which is how to not overdo it. What is the minimum amount of data capture efforts in the field that still maximizes motivation for impact, creates statistical significance of the data you're collecting, etc. So one of the tools we first built was a simple, proof of tree planting app. The app has since come a long way. These are actually old recordings, but this basically allows anyone in the world to open up their phone, log into the Silvi app, and track sapling inventories, or a geolocation for a recent planting, or even the state of a previously planted tree, or even just a mature tree that hasn't been planted but potentially is identifying a species of interest from which, say, a certain biodiversity metric is collected, or you're registering the location of a species of interest for seed collection purposes. And the amount of logic you can build on this. So for instance, we know when a tree flowers and produces seed. Some take a few years to cycle. So these are things we can prompt notifications. We're certainly not at that scale yet, but we are building this with this vision that, hey, when there are thousands, millions of people, and not just within the Silvi app, but within this ecosystem of data, one is able to be notified, hey, you've been waiting 4 months to collect certain seed pods, and the closest one near you is here, and it's most likely flowering at this time. Wouldn't that be cool to be able to steer humans in very efficient ways to kind of collect additional data or to actually participate in the restoration economy. So hopefully that kind of makes a little bit of sense. So we've also been building the Silvi app, which this was the New Zealand project that I was talking about. So here we're helping kind of, this is the Mangaroa Valley, and there's a lot of native forest. There's also forest blocks. So this is kind of native, that's mixed, that's a pine forest block that is being harvested and transitioned. There's a lot of grazeland, sheep paddocks in particular. You can kind of see their fences. There's a riparian ecosystem here that has been damaged over time. Some ecosystems are still intact. Yeah, and so we're helping with a lot of the data collection here, with particular data capture in different locations. And this is kind of like the flagship ecosystem, I guess, where we've done a drone data collection, and we've been sampling as well trees and building a sampling technique basically built on convex hulling, and it's a 2-year sampling process. But basically, trees are then sampled, we start to get a species breakdown, and we can then couple that with some satellite data for carbon above ground biomass. So this is kind of just an example of the different layers from satellite to drone to on the ground that we're collecting. Of course, those trees are obviously captured in terms of photos, the different planting locations. There's potentially a payment system, although this work is not being paid at the claim level. But yeah, so that's kind of an example of a project that we're involved with. And yeah, we have other pockets of super users. One is Antonio. He's kind of leading Sicily-wide campaign with an agroforestry methodology. This is a pretty dry area. And so they're trying to do agroforestry while taking into consideration, you know, the arid environment, the fire risk, but also participating in the local bioeconomy of olive oil and et cetera, which are native trees in this area. Yeah, and so these are paid for trees. They have been tracked over time. There's been successes and failures in this area, and this is a good example of payments that have been paid out for some of this impact. A lot of this funding has been regranted from previous Gitcoin rounds, and we're now we've been able to scale this program to support the latest campaign, which is the bioregional reforestation round. For this round, we raised some capital, 95,000 or so. Who knows if we'll be able to actually get to 100, but we were able to raise about 95,000, which plus that amount does get to the 100K mark. But our promise here was to actually raise 100K. We're very close. We haven't been able to quite fill that round, but hopefully we still will in the next couple of months. And so then these that funding is being distributed to different bioregions around the world. The Mediterranean coast is one of them, and Sicily project kind of fits within that project, as you can see here. They're actually one of the main projects in the Mediterranean area. But yeah, there are others. So there's sort of like the West Africa, Nigeria area where a lot of ecoregions meet. There's the Mata Atlantica area in Brazil, which is people kind of just remember the Amazon, which is obviously super important forest, but Mata Atlantica has been decimated by 90% plus. We have quite a bit of work in the Victoria Basin and Kenya area. So and a lot of our team is in Kenya as well. We have Cascadia, Ecuador, Colombia, which is really sort of the Amazon sacred headwater, where a lot of the water systems of the Amazon start. Just before the Indian Mountains, we have the Dry Chaco, which is also Indian Mountains, but a lot more south. And we have Haymax, and we have the Appalachia area, which I live near, but it follows kind of a mountain range in the East US. And then there's also almost $13,000 globally outside of these bioregions available to projects today to participate in this funding. So I guess a first quick call to action is, if you're in any of these bioregions or not, you're very welcome to join the campaign. We also have a Silvi community group, and we can help you onboard your tree planting or tree stewardship projects and participate in these payouts. Okay, I think most of this was knowledge that was known, so sorry for taking so long. And yes, anyone can join to this on this, so please reach out if you're interested. What else? Let me, so some of those organizations already onboarded. We've been building project pages. Let me see, I'll open a demo one, I guess. But basically, projects can then be designed in a dedicated project page. Things like stakeholders can be identified as from project developer, who basically is the owner of the project, to verifier types, which are the people walking the field collecting proofs, and potentially even other. So you can add. Let me see. I would be able to add a partner into this project and decide on a payment split. So what this means basically is organizations are invited to scope out their project boundaries. Those project boundaries can have additional layer of rules and conditions from which the payments are not only made at this bioregional scale, and this is a methodology Silvi is designing, which is more so focused on how much is being paid per tree, what species potentially are being paid for, but then the projects, the organizations can take advantage of those funds, kind of like a subsidy, and then leverage those funds to engage their local community or their staff, or not, or just sort of put everything towards their organization and leave nothing for the verifiers, but that's possible. But they could leverage those subsidies to start collecting data in that piece of land representing that project, the smart contracts then handle that. What that means for us as reviewers is we have these evaluation pages. It just takes a little bit to load because it's tracking so much. But basically, we have these evaluation pages that are collecting this data in real time and allows us to kind of go through them and review them. So here you have basically the data being collected, in this case, tree plantings. Sorry, this screen keeps getting on the way. Let me see if I can make it smaller. Okay, so the data comes in. We have some checks, like we're trying to compare sensor data with declared data to kind of make sure that it's not being spoofed. In this case, this is another Refi Sicily project. Antonio is definitely doing a lot. Antonio has gone ahead and defined a partner organization, Refi Mediterranean. In this case, Antonio is the verifier. I'm currently playing the role of evaluator, although we will be opening this up in the later stages of the bioregional round to start really building mechanisms around evaluation. Right now, I'm more so than anything stress testing this. And then, of course, you have Refi Sicily as the project developer, and all these payments get split. And so that looks like a pretty good proof of a planting. In fact, you can see an irrigation line and a support structure. So I would be able to approve that claim and move on to the next one. And that's kind of the flow that right now handles evaluation. We have a lot of claims to handle here in Kenya, Uganda area if it loads. I know Beeson Trees kind of hit the ground running the beginning of the year, planting a bunch of trees. And Ioweco Uganda as well followed suit and has been collecting a lot of data. So here's an example of some information still missing. So there's still wallets not connected for the verifier and for the project developer. But anyways, this evaluation flow has allowed us to kind of create this comprehensive checklist. As many of you know, Web3 is sometimes not easy, and lots of moving parts and often risky. So yeah, we've been building in the space feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and things break and bugs show up. But yeah, it's been fun, and I think it's getting there. And over the next few weeks, we will be ramping up payment releases significantly. And for the second half of the round, as we open up evaluation to maybe a demo group, we will also be incorporating more techniques to evaluation, which are not these one-to-one pre-proofs, but really more broad techniques. I have to reload this, otherwise it breaks. Techniques for things like satellite and whatnot. I know we're coming up on time quickly, so I'll speed things up. There are 2 pretty, I guess, relevant announcements. One is, so Silvi is building this SDK, and what this means is anybody can basically build a tree-related app leveraging some of the tools that Silvi has been building. So, for example, if you were to, I'm going to fly through this, but if you have land in the Amazon and you want to start building your own app, your own experience, your own website, your own flow, and in fact, this is an example of a sister partner project of Silvi's that is leveraging the Silvi SDK, but it's not exactly the Silvi app. Then yeah, we've incorporated all of these tools, and we've implemented some ability to run data analysis in real time for that piece of land. This does take some time because it's triangulating a lot of data, but I left this one open as an example. So we're able to very quickly understand deforestation loss, understand the rate of that deforestation, and even understand the broader ecological context in terms of water systems and whatnot. And in parallel, and these 2 worlds are not quite tied together, but in parallel, we've been building Trikipedia, which, amongst many things, is a comprehensive tree knowledge database. Let me see if I can, this is localhost, so I'm not sure if I can actually, if I have a lot of data here. But basically, this is a comprehensive tree knowledge data. We've connected it to AI, so species can be researched in real time. Let me see if I have, I thought I might have had, yeah, this one is researched already, so you can actually see here, there's confidence on the knowledge, citations, and a ton of data, particularly useful for things like stewardship and agroforestry use cases and what have you, but also obviously understanding it in the broader ecological context. And what we're looking to do with this is refine the system to be able to, anywhere in the world, kind of be able to both predict species, but also recommend species. So this also takes a little bit, let me get it going. Basically, we've actually been, so I'm not even that technical, but with this wave of AI, I've been able to do PhD level research, not because I'm building the models directly, but because AI is actually doing it for me and for my team. So we've been able to build sort of this schema along with a neural net model to be able to take basically the entire Wikipedia knowledge schema, a lot of occurrence data, public data, academic data, literature, and kind of combine all of those worlds together to build these suitability models, basically, so that we can optimize what we can recommend in terms of, say, an agroforestry candidate or a natural rewilding candidate. And what we hope to do with this is to actually autonomously kind of start building novel eco credits that, and we don't necessarily want to like lead all of that. There are incredible partners like Regen Network that have built registries. Obviously, there are complementary data points like bioacoustics that could support this data or that could reinforce a prediction or calibrate a model and things like that. But ultimately, we're exploring the space, and yeah, the end goal here is that basically this end-to-end experience where you no longer need expensive consultants to fly into a land to kind of understand what happens there, but we're able to reliably predict what's in an area and even recommend what to grow. So yeah, anywhere in the world, we're able to. Let me see if I can show the prediction model. So anywhere in the world, you're able to not just draw. So for example, part to draw here, there are 30 species found and 1,000 occurrences. This is a patch of forest near San Francisco. This is actual data that exists, but then we're able to run the AI model on top of that to actually understand like what potential species are suitable in that area, even though that particular piece of land might not have had occurrences already collected. So there's this combination of basically AI that we're layering into the both species knowledge and the species occurrence. We're coming up on time, so I guess I will stop there. Let me see if I've missed anything. I don't think I've missed anything. But yeah, we have a website. Feel free to check it out, and maybe I'll stop it here just to kind of open it up for discussion, and also, I guess, envision together how Silvi and GainForest can collaborate further, and even others in the call. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, Djimo. I wonder if Wikipedia is like open to all and it's live.
Yeah, Wikipedia is open source. A lot of the tools we're building still live in localhost because we're not deploying maybe as fast as we're building some of these features. But we're in as part of the SDK package that Silvi's building. We will be offering those, the kind of like the full service, the AI model, the recommendation schema, and all of that at the SDK or API level. So any like on GainForest side, you would potentially be able to run the model by a zone that you already have a polygon, right? And so yeah, that's kind of our goal is to be able to interoperate at that level.
Right. Thank you so much, Djimo. Super interesting. Yeah, I can open it to questions and answers. We have like around 15 to 20 minutes more. Does anybody have any feedback, insights, questions? Feel free. I think Julius has one here. Number one, how are projects registered in Silvi get funded? That's the first question.
Yeah, if you're part of a bioregion that's enlisted, you will have a bigger pool of funding to participate in. Why that matters is because it's first come, first serve. So, for example, there's been thousands of plantings already in Kenya, Uganda area. So I would say that's a saturated space. But then there are others with less activity. And yeah, ultimately, when that funding runs out, there won't be any more funding, at least in this campaign. What we're contemplating doing is Obviously, then those locations have access to the global funding if there's any left. But potentially, if some bioregions are kind of dormant or not making enough use of this funding, we will consider as a multi-sig whether we should redistribute that funding a little bit. But ultimately, at this point, it was dictated through community, through quadratic funding, how the ratios distribute. So we don't necessarily want to touch that until we have a bit more maturity in this campaign. But to participate, it's pretty easy. I mean, log into Silvi, sign up, create an organization if there isn't one already for you, and draw a polygon or upload one if you already have one on Google Earth or on GainForest side. Very soon, I think there will be true native interoperability between Silvi and GainForest via @proto. So until that happens, like just reach out with that shapefile, that KML, and we will upload it for you. And start planting, start registering. And we haven't really picked up payments yet. We were kind of tweaking and refining, but we tested the first batch of payments earlier this week. Today, it's just 8 a.m. for me, but today's going to be a big evaluation day with payment releases. In fact, we evaluated one in real time over the call. But these claims are now going to be coming through at hundreds, potentially thousands per day until we catch up to the evaluations. So it's definitely a great time to onboard, incorporate your projects, and start qualifying for payments.
Right. Thank you so much, Djimo. Anybody have any questions and they want to talk? Maybe feel free to unmute yourself. Let me check the chat. So, second question from Julius: does Wikipedia contain names of global trees? As in, maybe the data, is it like global or a lot, like concentrated in certain regions, for example?
It's super global. It is certainly concentrated in certain regions by means of data collection bias. I think this is one of GainForest's famous opening statements, is how much data disproportion there is, and certainly we see that. But what's really special about neural nets is they're able to go through this data. So we're not training prediction and recommendation around data volume. We're really training that around patterns behind tree occurrence. So first and foremost, there's a really comprehensive tree knowledge schema that we've accumulated. And again, we're not inventing new data standards. We're just bringing existing ones together. For example, Globi has an extensive biodiversity web of knowledge that understands different species by what other species are pollinated by, eaten by, flowers visited by, pathogens, parasites, etc. So that's just a subset of data that we're feeding the model. But because of that, the opportunity here is our prediction engine will just continue getting better, because you might not have a lot of tree species collection in an area, but you have a lot of insect collection, and we're able to trace back the host species of that insect population. So, the ChatGPT moment has happened at the LLM level. Last year, Alpha Earth, kind of ChatGPT for Earth observation, happened as well, and we're hoping to contribute to big data AI pipelines for ecological knowledge as well. And so on top of these schema fields, there are just so many complementary data sets that are global, not biased, that we're able to train and refine, such as precipitation patterns, climate ranges, climate tolerances, soil pH range, soil organic matter range. I mean, there's just a ton. And then not just that, but then you're able to tweak your weights of prediction and recommendation just through genomic taxonomy, right? Maybe you don't have a particular species group occurrence, enough occurrence, but you have of that family or genus, and you're able to to tweak those weights accordingly. Hey, John, good to see you on this call. I hope Boulder was fun.
It was great. We missed you, but sounds like you had a good time in New Zealand. So look forward to catching up. I can at least, I'm driving, so I'll at least say hello for a moment. But I was wondering if you can share, because I know we have a lot of folks on the call that would like to take advantage of the Bioregional Fund. And I'm wondering if you can share here in the first couple of months, any sort of lessons learned or mistakes people are making, issues people are having, like any kind of like tips that might get people going that you're seeing kind of common issues using the app, common problems, etc., that maybe can help the folks on the call.
Yeah, totally. I mean, first and foremost, I would say if ever there's anybody to blame for any mistakes, it's definitely me. I'll raise my hand. We could have done a better job as Silvi to help onboard, help with instructional materials, help with tutorials. All of that with also the fact that we're building in real time. When we launched this campaign, it was for a particular stage of the stack, and as we raised 100K and launched some things, we were like, we can do better. Let's continue shipping these features that will support the user experience ultimately. But there's definitely been an in-between stage where sometimes we deploy something to production and something else breaks or whatnot. Aside from that, so the first thing I want to say is there have been power users, and we have leaned on to those power users to make sure they're onboarded correctly. I've been on the call a bunch with Jonathan, with Stephen, with Antonio, and others, and really trying to make sure the power users are experiencing the complete and end-to-end onboarding and data collection and split registering and all of that. But we will certainly be putting together, and I hope by next week, a comprehensive onboarding video that really walks anybody through zero, from organizational setup, project setup, and the what it actually means to tag trees, and what to expect from these more sort of click features that can happen at the project page, like land analysis and things like that. So more of that will come, but in the meantime, like, if you're having trouble, just please reach out. We will find time to meet you or to walk you through onboarding. And if there are any GainForest projects that want to tap into this funding, that is actually, I think, the best opportunity for how Silvi and GainForest can then discover collaboration is through the shared users, right? It's through the shared use cases, not just abstractly, but actually both GainForest and Silvi can then kind of collaborate on serving you. And I think that would be a cool opportunity.
Right. Thank you so much, Djimo. I think that's so the reality, building life while onboarding people, it's chaotic. But thank you for sharing that, and I totally resonate with that as well. Cool. Anyone has any other questions, or any of you share regarding your tree data MRV strategies, for example, that you're doing? Okay, someone's saying here. Sylvia is asking, could we use this to incentivize to track tree giveaways in checking their survivability rates?
Could we use this to incentivize tree tracking giveaways in tracking their survivability rates? Is the database exportable into Esri for government use, I guess? Yeah, I mean, maybe there will be a schema mismatch. So I know Esri follows a particular schema, or in most cases, actually, governments have their own data schemas, but the data is, if not already public through blockchain, like reference UIDs and attestation UIDs or Trikipedia's data model. Yeah, we can build out features to actually export PDFs or CSVs and things like that. And can it be used to track tree giveaways? I mean, I can't think of a better use case for Silvi where you're giving away tree saplings and your users are registering them with Silvi. So that would be actually like a pretty perfect use case.
Okay, there's another question also from Silvio. Can you make AI algorithm to translate between municipal data schemas to the more universal data schema of Wikipedia?
I would have to understand what you mean with municipal data schemas. So things like heating index, water retention, yes. Others, maybe not, just because municipal data is a very broad data category. But yeah, I would say yes and no. Basically, Wikipedia has built on all types of tree data. So whatever municipal data supports a particular tree data vertical, like there would be really good interoperability there. So potentially one would be able to triangulate heat, like shade and flooding tolerance and a particular pollination ecosystem service, and maybe within an envelope of small root mass or root depth, and maybe some like high pH resistance. I don't know, I'm just making things up. We would be able to triangulate all of those inputs into Wikipedia. Are they built already in Wikipedia front end? No, but we're actively, they are manipulatable weights in the grand scheme of things. We just haven't like fully caught up to shipping that experience yet into the front end.
Right. Thank you, Djimo. Silvi, I hope that answers your question. I have one question, Djimo, regarding the schemas. I wonder if it's the one that Silvi is using is like following certain global standards, for example, like GBIF or something like that.
Yeah, we use GBI for a lot of stuff, but we've gone well beyond GBIF. So I would say if there's one, like, yes, probably GBIF is the most popular. But I think this is outdated by now, but there are different data standards here shared at the bottom of Wikipedia website. And what I would say is we've had to normalize so many data sets. So some data sets have the field common name, and others have the field vernacular name, and those often mean the same thing. But unless we normalize those fields into a consistent data schema, we can't really like leverage, like accumulate the data, or aggregate the data. And so a lot of the work over the last, like, it's a lot of fun right now to be working with AI, but that is built on top of like a year and 3 months, a year and 4 months of data cleanup, noise cleanup, schema consolidation, and even things like allometric models or DBH. Like the field names vary. They come in all shapes and sizes from all sorts of data sets. And so we've basically had to build a manifold where every time we ingest a new data set, we've had to normalize that schema against the master schema. And so that's been a tedious, slow exercise, but I think it has positioned us to actually, like, I think have one of the most robust, sophisticated tree databases in the world, and built on top of others, but nonetheless one that allows us to now, I think, ship a pretty sophisticated AI model on top of. But it will continue to grow.
Right. Thank you so much. Because we're also thinking of this like adoption of global standards so that the certification seems more legit, right? So yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I think you bring up a cool point, which is certification. Like, even that is such a question mark for me, because we live in this paradigm of potential like eco credits, carbon credits, biodiversity credits, and these credits are certified. And these credits, more than anything, I think represent fungible units. But imagine living in a world where the impact is less credits and more like math and science. Just that is the actual impact layer is data. And so it's hard to see how that will be fungible and how corporates can offset or inset. But at least if that possibility exists, which currently it doesn't, at least if that exists, then you can produce the data, claim the impact, and maybe someone else can debate it. But unless you have that resolution, yeah, I think people will still shy away from credits if credits are just still reductionist units of impact. So the credits at least have to be backed by this massive derivative data layer, and so we're trying to build that a bit.
Right. Thank you so much. We have 3 minutes left. Does anybody have any burning questions they want to ask before we end the call? Yes. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if you could share with us the link for the website, so that. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, everything we shared today can be accessed through the website, and the link is silvi.earth. From there, you can access the bioregional rounds, Wikipedia, the app. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much. Anyone else? You want to give feedbacks or your own experience? Feel free. Okay, I guess no. But again, thank you so much, Djimo. This has been super, super great. As in for me, I really need to sit down and see like how we can integrate, both the tools from GainForest and also Silvi. And essentially, it's really great to have you here, and we are all in the ecosystem. And I'm hoping to also get other people to, if they are using any other tools next time, maybe you can also give a presentation for the next one. But thank you so much. This has been super, super great. Do you want to drop your email maybe in the chat box just in case if people would like to reach out?
Yep. And also, this is my Telegram. I'm pretty active on Telegram. Feel free to reach there, and then I can also add you to the Silvi group if you're interested. But yeah, no, thanks for having me. Massive respect for what GainForest has done. I know it's a pioneer and innovating not just ecology but technology. And I'm super keen to find ways to collaborate with y'all. So if there are any projects you have in mind that some of the Silvi stack could support, I would be so happy to sit down with you one-on-one, or you kind of do a little bit more of a deep dive to explore synergies. Yeah.
Yes, would love to. And I feel like even in the list of all of our communities, one of the major data is actually tree data compared to other things. So I feel like that's the most reachable and easiest, especially to some parts of the world. So thank you so much for this. Hopefully for the next sessions, we can explore other data layers, other forms of data layers, like bioacoustics or drones, for example. Right. Cool. Thank you so much. In that case, I will close this session. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.